Hey everyone, I'm back again in this August lovely month with the beautiful Wild at Heart and Other Goodies collection, and I've got an epic video for you today. So we're actually going to use this A4 piece of mixed media paper and we're going to collage, we're going to add some paint, we're going to add some mark making, we're going to do some stencil work on it, and then I'm going to cut it and use it as the title for a photo on a, for a scrapbooking layout. So I'm just going to start here. I'm using the gel medium and I am just putting some underneath and some on top. So just using everything from the kit. So these are some doilies. I actually started with this Dina Wakley gel medium and realised that it was just too thick and pulled out some of the Liquitex, I believe. A brand name anyway, I can't remember what it was. I could have a look if anyone's interested. It's more liquidy and more built for this collagey thing. So I think this gel medium that I'm using at the moment works really well in stencils because it's thicker and holds up better rather than the liquidy stuff that I change to in a moment. So as you can see, there's no rhyme or reason to the collaging part. I really just want to get some texture on the background, use up some items that I might not necessarily use in my other scrapbooking projects, and I get some cool, hints of things that are going on in the depth of the background paper that we're going to make here. So there's a few different steps that happen on this just to get the title. We're doing this collaging part, then I let it dry, then I come back and add some paint, and then I let it dry again, add some stencils and add some mark making, which is just pretty much, it's like doodling but with paint and those kind of mediums, just making marks on the paper. And then once it's all dry, I cut it up and cut the letters out to make the title. So in between, obviously, while I'm waiting for it to dry, I do add some layers to my photo so that it pops. I first wanted to start with just the photo with some matted pattern paper behind it, and then the title just underneath it, and just the rest as blank white space. But it does take a different turn, so not a huge one. I don't overwhelm the background because obviously I want that title to stand out with all this mixed media goodness. And yeah, so you'll pick up, potentially, if you're interested in watching my videos to pick up some techniques, then you'll see a few different ones here because obviously there's a lot going on to get it to the part that I want it to be before I start cutting the letters out. It's sort of like making an art journal page and then using that to cut up and make a title. So I'm just using some of the stickers that came in the kit. We got 3 sheets of these and they're all the same sayings and like phrases and whatnot, I believe. Pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I was happy to use up a few on here, and I even broke my rule of having writing straight, or at least be legible that I could read it left to right, and I put some vertically down the side here, just here. My thought was that I'm going to be cutting willy-nilly into this background to cut out the shapes. It might be cool to have some letters popping out just randomly, even if it is vertical, I'm not going to know. So using up some stickers that I might not necessarily use, those sunnies, the yes and no, I probably would use that. The ampersand, oh my gosh, I would probably definitely not use that unless it was in my title. So just using some gel medium under the sticker as well, a mason jar here. That just reinforces and makes sure that it does stick down. Even use the little bits from inside the ampersand there. Put them on just as a pop of colour. There we go. So this, I believe, is the last bit that I collage on. I do have a just quick look at the pattern paper, but if I was putting pattern paper on much more, this is a Project Life card that I'd ripped up. If I put pattern paper on, I'd want to start with that because it'd be a bit more blocky, a bit like tissue paper. So I'm happy with that amount of texture. And I'm going to move on once I've done this to the painting section pretty soon. Don't forget to clean up your gel medium and the paintbrush if you're playing along at home. And we're going to get out our paints. So obviously I'm using the Vicky Buden paints from the kit, from the mixed media kit this month. We've got the blue and the green and the 2 shades of pink. So they're a really lovely little combination. Oddly enough, like, you wouldn't think that they would normally go so nicely together, but they are a perfect combination. Of course, because Vicky is pretty spot on with what she does. So I'm just using my silicone brush. You could use a loyalty card, you could use a normal paintbrush, you could use a wipe, anything really. That you could use your fingers if you are so inclined. You could use anything you want as long as you're getting paint on the paper. The good thing about that I liked here, that I was using the silicone brush and I'm just wiping it clean with a wipe in between colours, is that it gave that little, the ridges of paint so that it wasn't all just flat. It was a bit see-through in sections, and then others it's thicker and not as see-through at all. So I like that you can see those pops from the collage. You get not only the texture from the collage items that we put underneath, and you can see that you don't need that much paint. It goes so far. So yeah, just try not to do too much of a block of colour together that you know that you're not going to be able to see other colours when you cut out a letter. If you think about when you look at this piece of paper when you're making it, you would think, okay, I'm gonna, if I could cut this up in 10 squares, so slice it down the middle lengthways, and then 5 cuts vertically down from the top to the bottom, you'd have 10 squares so that you could cut out letters if you wanted your title to be 10 letters long, and if that's how big you wanted your letters. So when you think about that, you think about each little square. Does it have a pop of each colour, or, you know, is it dominantly one colour or the other? Sometimes it's nice to have a dominant colour in a section, but other times I was more going for that look of having a few colours here and there. So here at the end, I sort of just smudge a few colours together, trying to use up the paint that I've got left there on my mat, and just making it blend in to make it work. So I've put that aside to dry, and I've got this photo here of just a sweet little moment, nothing spectacular. When you think about it, it's more an everyday moment, but it was great. But when we went to, where did we go? Oh gosh, it's gone straight out of my memory. When we went somewhere, anyway, out in the middle of somewhere, in the middle of Australia, a couple of hours from Canberra, we went to another part of it. Were we at Caves, maybe? Anyway, we went to this, yeah, it was. There was a hot spring and a cold spring, and they had a pool and whatnot. And then we went down and had a look, and there was these lovely frogs. And, sorry, I've just turned off my notifications. And, yeah, so I just snapped this lovely photo of my boys and their dad, just having a look at the frog, and there was lots of frogs around, so it was quite cute. And you could see that my son's pointing to it, and he's like, he was able to touch it. That's how close the frogs were letting them get to them. They didn't purposely continually pat them or touch them, because obviously that's not nice for the frogs. But it was pretty cool that they, it's not something we see in Canberra every day. Anyway, rambling about the photo, and I've missed a few steps of the paper matting for you. Hopefully you were following along and, you know, listening to my rambling at the same time, or had me on mute and you have no idea what I'm saying. So I just did a full mat with that, the blue with the green leaves on it. Then I had that little piece that I ripped in half and used it on both ends. Got a little strip up the top of the pink, and then that ripped bit edge on the side there. To start with, I thought that I have made it. I've made it left side more heavy than the right side, or the top and bottom, when you come to the end of the matting of the whole photo. But that's because I thought, oh yeah, I'll put the title to the right. but then stupidly didn't think about the size of the letters to make the mixed media pop, that they would be going underneath anyway. But it's no drama. I actually like the fact that it's just a bit more to the left there with a lot of stuff, rather like of matting, rather than just matting around and around and around in the same full mat or whatnot. So it just adds a bit of interest to the left of the photo. So just add in a bit more of a full mat here, and just every now and then add in a bit of difference with some ripped edges. So you can see there's already ripped edges on the pattern paper layers, and I'm going to rip the bottom of this red leaves, or pinky red leaves. It's really cool. So here I'm just putting it on, and then I'm going to cut it down to the where I want it to be. Sometimes you can, I've been matting it a bit lately like this, where I'm putting it all together and then working out where I want the cuts or the rips to be. Other times I just cut it all before I even stick anything down to it. So just depends on how I feel like what's going on and, you know, what I want to do to the paper apparently. So this paper here, it's red on the back, and I think it's only one-sided because it's got a sticker on this side, no branding strip or anything. And but I like this little brown, like muted tone to add a bit to it. So I just use it there as a nearly a full mat, and this is going to be my last paper layer. Then we're going to go back to doing some more on that background mixed media piece. So stay tuned. What are we going to do? Oh, I lie. Here I was thinking it was all finished, and then I thought, no, it needs a bit more blue. It needs some darker blue. So I found this lovely pattern paper here in the background. In my really useful box, and that's going to go here in the background on the left side as well to add another pop to that left. So sticking it on, and I actually cut this down as well after the fact because I realised, one, it's not very straight, and two, just a bit bigger than I would have preferred. So snip, snip. Oh, and another one. Oh my gosh. Here I was saying that part was done, and we go on forever and ever. And stupid me put the tape on the wrong side because I want to stick it underneath, and I need the tape on the pink side so that it sticks to the layers. So I stick that on, and then I peel the other, like the sticky tape off the back, the double-sided tape off the back. Eventually, when I get it on, gosh, I was stalling. So I'm just going to use the distress tool, the paper. No, it's not a distress tool. I don't know what it's called, dabber, maybe. The paint dabber through this Kaiser Craft stencil with the leaves, and it's just acrylic white paint, and it just was smudging and blurring so much. And first I thought that it was the dabber because it was foaming up with some water a bit, like, I don't know if it was acrylic paint was just becoming a bit more liquid than normal. So I try the other stencil that we get, and it just worked perfectly. So I'm thinking that leaf stencil from Kaiser Craft was just too fine and detailed, and the paint was going underneath. So I'll try that next time with texture paste and something a bit more thicker than the acrylic paint. So let that dry for a few moments. It doesn't need much. Oh, actually, I didn't record me stamping those hearts and the leaves from the stamp that we got in the main kit. I'm sorry. So I just used the Stays On ink and just black Stays On ink, and just randomly stamped it around, thinking that even if it's cut off and it's just some black lines, it's still going to be a bit of a texture and a bit of fun to the background. And that leaf, like string, I guess, the branch of leaves or whatever, I'm sure it's got a word, is actually a stencil down, the stamp down the bottom of the stamp pad, and is the stamp set. And I just cut it in half to use just half of it. There we go. So now I'm just using the silicone brushes and making some marks with my white and black paint, and just putting some lines here, there, and everywhere, and now doing some dashes. That's what we're going to call them. And this is just to add a bit of interest, a bit more of some more layers, really. It's good to build up those layers, even though it feels like you're being wasteful and it takes some time. It's actually quite fun other than waiting for it to dry, which of course you could just get out the heat gun. So just wiping that. Don't know why I left that in. And then we're going to go to the next part. So just adding some water, just mixing it up, and I'm just going to add some sparkles, I was going to say, some splatters. So mix, mix, mix. So any acrylic paint, you can just add some water. It'll water down, and then you'll be able to flick it onto the paper with some splatters. Obviously, the harder you splat and I'm doing the action and you can't see what I'm doing. The more you move your wrist with your paintbrush, obviously the different splatters that arise from it. And then I mixed it up because I did those dashes without wiping my brush before. So now I have some grey. So there's another colour that just adds to the mix of the background. And yeah, so you can see how the texture as you're mixing it there, as I'm mixing it, how the texture of the acrylic paint with the water changes. It's quite easy to do. It's obviously going to separate over time if you left it and whatnot. If you put it in a shaker bottle, a spray mist bottle, that would be fine. You just have to shake it up and stir it, make sure it was mixed in before you used it each time. So add in a love heart there, because why not? And some dashes and some sprinkles and some lines, because it's grey, it's a new colour. I thought we'd do a few different techniques with it. And then we're calling it a day with that part. So once again, gotta leave it to dry, and then we come back. So we've got my photos with the photo with the layers behind it, and now I've got the background all dry. I've got to cut it up and make the title frogs. Now I just roughly do it. I do make sure they're roughly about the same height so that they're not standing out as crazy kind of font. That was not what I was looking for today. I just spell out frogs. I don't do the G very well. I forget the line in on the G, but tell me if I'm wrong, but it looks like a G to me. Maybe because I know the title's frogs, that's probably why it just looks fine. So funny how I have things where I'm like, nope, you have to be able to read left to right. If you write an ampersand, it has to be used in the title if you put it on the layout. But then I'm like, oh, the G, I stuffed it up, but surely it looks all right, hey? So as you can see, just roughly cutting them and having fun with that. And the background being used in the title this way is just so fun. You can see all the different things going on, and no two letters look the same, but they are so similar because the colours are similar. There's black and there's white and there's grey, and stamping and paint and stencil, and it's just fun. Fun. So here we go. So getting my cardstock background, just cutting off the branding strip. I'm just going to layer it on and say, yep, this is the position I want it in. It probably would have been nice to just use a bit of that the mixed media background as a layer up the top of the photo on that top right corner, but it doesn't need it once I do this. So I figure I was going to get the texture paint out and texture paste. My loyalty card doesn't fit in there, so spatula to put it on. And I just wanted to add some texture to the background, white on white, so that there was something to look at when you were looking at your background and made the heading and the photo stand out. And it just looks really cool. I actually like that, and I want to do that. Scrap lift myself and do that again. So I don't really worry about waiting for it to dry. But then I do add some paint in some little dashes and dots. It's 2 words, Lauren, not one. Some dots and dashes. I did want to do splatters, but it's not watered down, so of course I can't. Anyway, so I do some dots and dashes in the background, just where I know that the photo and the title are not going to be, but just making it pop a little bit of. It's like doing splatters, but in a more texture, more art journal-y kind of a way. So we're just going to add these on. Then we're going to stick everything down. Just make sure that I don't need to add any more paint, any more of these dots and dashes once everything's stuck down. and then, you know, there's not much more to it. So hopefully this has inspired you to get out your, you know, your art journal, or to make a background and have fun with it, with use your punches or a cut file and cut them out, or do the same and use a title out of that mixed media background. Hopefully you've just enjoyed it and you are inspired. So I move up my layout here so I can add in 2 layers of fun foam. So just want it to stick up off the page and have the texture paste on the background as a shadow and down lower. And then I realised I just smudged it all in those little paint piles, and now there's paint on the edge of my layout. So just holding that down because it's wet glue. Get a wipe, and then I'm just going to wipe that off. I don't mind too much that it's on that corner, but I do think, okay, I need to add something to maybe even the other side to make sure it looks like I've purposely put that line of pink there on the edge. So just using my wet tacky glue here to glue these down, and I just show you how easy it is to stick on. Glue, glue, glue down, and then of course, I don't know, for some reason I just laid it in a little bit of an arch and then realised, no, I want it straight. So I just quickly pick up the glue, pick it up before the glue dries and stick it down. So I didn't wait for the texture paste to dry, so I need to be careful. The other good thing about that is that it is helping me stick the title down. So just adding some more colour where I think it's needed. Wiping it off. Wow, looks like I'm going really slow now. Add some more colour. The reason why I use wipes to clean my paintbrush, which is not always very effective, is because my craft area is in my bedroom, and I didn't have any water other than in my spray bottle to clean my brush, and I did not feel like getting up. I was comfortable, didn't want to get up and get a jar of water for my paintbrushes. But also the other good thing about that is that it's not, my paintbrush is not soaking wet either. So sometimes you want things, when you're painting, you want to use a dry brush. Sometimes you want a semi-dry brush, and other times you want a wet brush. They all will give you different effects. So just added a bit of splatters here, some black, just like in the title. Then I must do something else because I've got a little bit of video left, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, why did I forget? So remembering that I've, pushed my layout into those piles of paint, I then add a pop of all these colours around the edges. So just randomly, some are longer, some are shorter, some go around the corner and the edges. They're just adding those 3 colours in for a bit of extra pop. That also then means I was thinking about like whether it needed a doodly border or whether I needed to mat it on some paper, which would have been problematic, seeing as my title is pretty big and I wouldn't be able to cut the cardstock down very well. But this works perfectly. It adds to the art journal-y look of the layout. I ran out of blue and just frames the photo and the title well. So yeah, so this is the end of it. I just show you how random it was, where my hand's going around here, there and everywhere with the colour. And then I'm going to have some close-up of the layout as usual. And leave me some comments or hop on Facebook and ask me a question or a comment and let me know how you think this layout went. So I'll catch you next time and have a great couple of days. Bye.